I mean, Riley Cooper, I mean, like, that dude deserves a statue. I mean, like,
number one on your speed dial.
Hey, I'll tell you what, like, I mean, I didn't know until a couple days after the fact. I was like, wait a minute, is he the MVP or like was he on the all-tournament team?
No doubt about it.
And then Ty Floyd, when I sure got 17, and like stole it from him. But I was like, when has a pitcher like been a part of like 5 of the 6 wins in Omaha? I mean, what a performance.
Coach, it's great to meet you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you for the time. Yes, sir.
Sure, I'm a little late, boys. At the spring game, obviously, as you can see. A couple of booze cruises here to do. Let's pit, cruise, grand salami to the boys. Finally back on track. And I got another one coming. Don't you think I don't? And that's how we roll in Tiger Stadium.
Just watching the spring games that were on television, one thing that jumped out about your squad is your quarterback room is very talented compared to a lot of the league and a lot of the country. I wonder, is it easier to recruit that position when you have talent or when you don't have talent? Coach Kelly, we're official.
Finally,
I'm
get a
telling
chance to meet you. Thought I had to get a private audience with the Pope. There's Jordy.
Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification, we about to go live. We got all your favorite guests, we got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show,
And
come have a good time.
Tearing up, answering the question, and I thought, my God, if she gets offered this job, she's going to take it.
It's just a crazy, fun time at LSU right now. Isn't this what everybody loves?
From the boot to the east to the west coast, no matter where we at, we open up the phone lines, come and join the show. Make sure you tell your friends about Jordy Culotta Show, yeah.
Let's go! Let's go!
All right.
Big day.
Start.
Big day.
Nice start.
It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time.
Coach, it's great to meet you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you for the time. Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show live here on our Click Here digital campus, just as we are every single day, Monday through Friday. If you don't mind, hit that like button, share button, comment button, and we will be with you up until 9 o'clock this morning. We're going to talk to Jacques Doucet just like we do every single Wednesday here on our show. He'll be through here about 8 a.m. this morning. Coach Kelly was speaking yesterday. Jacques had a couple of questions for him. We'll talk to him about what his thoughts are for LSU going into the opening of SEC play. Remember, daily on the Jordy Culotta Show, we are brought to you by RMB Builders. Rhett Bourgeois and his crew over at RMB taking care of us every single day here on the show, and they can take care of you, whether you need a brand new home, if you need to get into some reconstruction, if you're looking for a house to be remodeled, or if you're just looking for a project done around the house, let Rhett Bourgeois and RMB take care of you. They're online at rmb-builders.com. And as always, you can find them on Instagram at RMB Builders. Southern Regional Medical Center, our great friends over there with Jason Ramazan, Charlie Harvey, BJ and the crew. Of course, Real Doctors, Real Solutions, formerly Metropolitan Health Group. Still same great people, same great services over at Southern Regional Medical Center. They bring you our phone line each and every day. And remember, over at Southern Regional Medical Center with Jason Ramazan, he also has Mr. Fun's Travel. And there are a couple of trips coming up, including if you want to get way out in front of the season opener next year for LSU football in Vegas. He's putting a trip together for that game up at Allegiant Stadium. So today we're going to talk to Jacques on the phone line. I think Jacques is actually going to be through here. And we're also going to talk to Dr. Jeff Hogan. Dr. Jeff Hogan is a part of the group over with our friends at Ochsner, of course, our medical partners over here on the show, over at Ochsner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute. He's going to talk to us about what's the rehab like on an Achilles for a 39-year-old. We'll also ask him a little bit about turf toe. As we know, Peyton Turner had a turf toe injury that'll keep him out a while, but we'll just talk about the significance of turf toe. You hear that a lot, just kind of what is that injury? We'll hear from Dr. Hogan coming up here at 8:30 this morning, and we'll ask him also kind of what it's like to have to rehab an Achilles for a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who.
God, I thought you were about to break some news over there. That would not have been good.
I just watched the interview with him and Aaron Andrews.
But I thought you were going to say Aaron Anderson because he's also been listed as probable. But I thought you were breaking news over there.
He was probable last week. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Confirmed, not an Achilles on Aaron Anderson.
Oof, man! The more you watch that video on Aaron Rodgers is heartbreaking. As you just,
I'm sure it gives you a little PTSD.
It does. It absolutely does. In the sense of, just like what is in front of him. Like I had no idea, like what was about to happen. I tore my Achilles when I was 33 years old, which, like looking back on it, you're still physically kind of in your
that scares me
prime, But I mean,
yeah.
The bounce back was fast. It really, like looking back on it, I remember, kind of being like 7-8 months out, and I was running the levee, just kind of jogging it, just kind of like jogging up and down just to kind of see where I was. And I remember thinking like, man, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good, And I mean, I went back and like did ancient athletes after it, I mean, it was something that as gruesome. I mean, I remember hearing Achilles injuries before I suffered it and thinking like,
I'm done.
That is gruesome. That is just to think of that injury is, It kind of gives you the shivers, And I remember at the time, the Dr. Bankston at the time who did the surgery. I remember him telling me like it's a very common injury to reoccur in a lot of people because it can happen so easily. He said like you get more like people that are waking up in the middle of the night that have young kids that'll step on a toy or like, like that's how like they'll re-rupture it, like off of something like where you just like
Christmas morning.
Yeah. Where it's like, it's not strengthened enough to kind of like,
if you fall off,
you kind of
just something awkward.
Wobbly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to think about it at 39 and as an NFL player, quarterback, even like, Aaron Rodgers, he's not like this, like,
statue.
Yeah, he's not like from even like an athletic standpoint and a professional athlete. He's never been like a bowed up, jacked up type of guy. He's always kind of been like, to me, he's always kind of been like a Kevin Durant, where you're like, wow, look at this. This guy doesn't look like he's strong enough to be in the league, but like he's one of the dominant players.
I think he's gotten there. He looks like, even when just because you've been seeing his calf so much lately, like he's been getting into physically like better shape. They showed him.
Yeah, no, I think he's in great shape.
Yeah.
But if you saw him, you would be like, that's surprising. That's not, that's
you wouldn't,
a professional athlete.
Yeah, I guess if you saw him, but if you saw him like out in the wild, you'd be like, that guy definitely does something.
Yeah, for sure.
But on the football field, I think he's very unassuming because of his like aesthetics. He has the one chin strap that the old
Very
school,
old school.
and he has like the long sleeves on the jersey. It looks like he's like cosplaying as a football player. But I think if you saw him in like on the street, you'd be like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean I'm sure he's a big guy. Like
Yeah, because they showed him in Hard Knocks. They showed him like year 5 Aaron Rodgers, and he looks more of what you're talking about. Like not really a lot of like aesthetically wasn't very muscular. He was like kind of sinewy, like you're saying. But then I think he like kind of like found a second wind and got into really good shape because he wanted to play longer. I think he realized I have to do the kind of like the Tom Brady method of I have to really get in shape now so I can play 3 more years. And I mean, maybe it's overused, and that's why it popped.
Man.
But that thing looks like the guy that put the tweet out said it perfectly. It looked like a guitar string.
It did.
Boing.
It's kind of too much
It's
pressure.
so bad.
Just too much pressure, and it snapped. And that's what it does. It like rolls up on you. I was surprised he was able to get up because that's where, like, I didn't know what I did when it happened. Like I remember I told the person who stood over me, I was like, I think I just tore my Achilles. And there was a physical therapist that was playing basketball with us, and he was like, well, it might be a calf. He's like, it's a very common misdiagnosis, like kind of in the moment, like whether you think you tore your Achilles or you tore your calf. And he was kind of like feeling on it, and he was like, well, you definitely did something because it rolls
up.
Yeah. Mine actually rolled down, which was weird. It kind of didn't. It was weird because if you look at the way that he did the surgery, it's not a. Usually an Achilles is a straight
like pulling
line.
a poster.
Mine's like a fish hook. He had to go grab it like over here and then like pick it back up. It was gnarly, man. I mean, because I remember when the physical therapy, I did it like on a night, like we did it like on a Sunday night playing pickup basketball, and I actually drove myself home, went to bed, woke up the next morning, and when I woke up, I was like, I'm screwed. I couldn't walk. I couldn't like put pressure. This is your Achilles.
Yeah, you got like a flop foot.
Right.
You could see the dangle.
And I couldn't there was no push. There was no.
Crazy you just went to bed.
And I remember I went to Dr. Bankston. I was like, Doc, I think I tore my Achilles. I don't know if I did or not. I was like, there was a physical therapist there, and he said it could be a calf. And I like sat down and picked my leg up and like pulled my thing. And he was like, oh, no, you tore your Achilles.
Let's get to surgery.
He was like, no, you definitely tore it. He like didn't even. He was like, oh, no, you tore it. He was like, that's definitely an Achilles. And I was like, for sure? He was like, oh, no doubt. I was like, damn, man. But the rehab on it was, I mean, even at 33, when you're motivated and still wanting to do it, I mean, it's like, it's brutal.
Right.
I mean, it's brutal. Because like, I remember Brandon Landry, CEO of Walk-On's, former basketball, he did the same. He tore his Achilles in a pickup basketball game in Ancient Athletes. And he told me when I called him when I did it, and he was like, do not cheat the rehab. I did. He was like, I got too busy.
Shocking.
I didn't get into it. And he's like, and for that, I had ankle, calf, foot problems for 2 years until I like finally committed to getting myself back in shape and rehabbing and strengthening. He was like, do it on the front end. He was like, because if you don't, it'll screw your whole deal up. And man, it was brutal to watch that happen to Aaron Rodgers. Brutal. I mean, and the Jets. Did you hear all the fallout, man? I mean, like
name 9 quarterbacks he wanted. Top 5 list of the 9 quarterbacks I'd like to see for the Jets.
I mean,
He ended it with Tebow.
Brutal.
But that's where they are. Like the picture of that we used for the thumbnail, like of Robert Salah on the sidelines. It's like his whole future is like he's watching, like you're watching it all go down the drain. It's over.
Yeah. Oh, I mean everything, all the buildup.
No.
Oh, I mean,
he was in love.
Absolutely.
We got a quarterback. I mean, he was like Stu guys. We got a quarterback.
Right.
Finally have a quarterback. But that's tough for them.
All right. So I know you got some BK bites from yesterday.
I do. Let me pull them back up.
That I'd love to get to. And really looking forward to talking this morning to Jacques and getting Jacques' thoughts on where LSU is heading in to SEC play. Obviously, this week is going to be a huge matchup for LSU. I mean, really, when you look at this matchup for LSU, it's a game that LSU should win when you look at it on paper. But from the challenge standpoint of what LSU and where they are, this is a phenomenal test. When you look at this rushing attack that Mississippi State is bringing in, leading the league right now in rushing, and their commitment to the rush is like, it is unreal. Like, I mean, it's when you're watching Mississippi State play now, I mean, it's like watching, it's like watching the greatest show on turf become like an option team. I mean, like, it is so different than what you have seen with that program. I mean, like, they're calling runs on like 3rd and 7. I mean, like their commitment to they're leading the league in rushing right now.
It's Army going to the spread.
It's wild. I mean, like, Wilson Alexander stopped by here yesterday and was giving us a little, kind of insight into it. And I turned on and watched a little bit of him, and it's like, it's crazy to see Will Rodgers kind of in that mode of.
How many times did he throw it last week?
16.
16 times? No, I think he was 16 of 21. Is that what it was?
Maybe, yeah.
But regardless, he used to throw it like. I mean, he used to throw it 50 times a game. I watched the 2022 game. I don't even know why, but I just went down the rabbit hole because I forgot that LSU fell behind in that game and had to come back. And the special teams were worse than we thought last year. They were abysmal. So that's something that you'll get cleaned up immediately. But they had an 88-yard kick return called back. They had I think they averaged 37 yards of return on kickoffs. And then they had punt returns where they averaged almost 20 yards on punt returns. The special teams it feels like they've been cleaned up a little bit. Obviously, you have the Aaron Anderson drop. But other than that, you feel like you haven't seen a lot of the penalties or anything like that on the special teams end, and it feels clean. So I don't think Mississippi State will have that advantage going into this year. And it just feels so different. They returned the running back that's leading the league in rushing right now, but LSU struggled with him a little bit. Just stylistically, though, it's going to be such a different game.
It is going to be, it's going to be clunky when you first look at it, for the first time watching Mississippi State kind of in that mode. But, for LSU's sake, I think this is a great test to kind of where they are right now. And the feeling that I have around LSU going into this game is it's a team still searching for its identity early on in the season, which is not out of character for college football at this time of the year. I think that there's more questions than answers than a lot of people inside of the program imagine that there would be up to this point. And there's some things that they have to fix immediately to really, when you look down the line of the league, that they need to get right to keep themselves in a position where they can compete for a West title. And I think these are the games, these are the weeks, this is the opportunities to start to get some of that stuff right. And, I think the rush defense is going to be the biggest that is tested immediately this week, right? When you look at this Mississippi State, team. And it's just like we said, to where they are now, is just, you can't go back on last year's film. You're not going to be able to really resource a lot of the things that you've done against Mississippi State in the past. It's going to be a totally different type of style. And when you start talking about some of the guys that are banged up, what's going to happen in the middle of that defense for LSU? Obviously, Mason Smith getting back is huge for this week, right, to get him back on the field. And this would be a great opportunity for Mason Smith to really kind of announce his return to college football. And I know he's still a little slowed by injury, and his snap count is probably not where he would like it to be, especially where the fan base would like it to be, up and right at this moment. But I think these are the types of games where you kind of work yourself back into it, and here's a chance for him to really make a big play of kind of announcing that he's back. He's back in the league. He's back with LSU. He's back as one of the leaders on defense. So, that immediately would be the first thing that I look at and say the rush defense for LSU, which has been, really inept at times and really pushed around, needs to step up and play big this week. and they need guys to step up. And I would look at new names. I think that you're probably going to see some new faces this week. I look at Whit Weeks as having probably a really good opportunity to step in. And, Omar Spates is a guy that's been obviously banged up. He watched the second half of LSU Grambling in street clothes last week. When he was in there in the first half, he did not look right. He did not look like he was moving at full speed. Something was holding him back. And if he's a step and a half slower than he usually is, the SEC opener is not the place to try and break that in. Now, there's not a lot of opportunities to break it in, but it didn't look like he was going to be ready to go. Brian Kelly said earlier this week that they still had him listed as, was it probable on Spates?
Yes, probable when he only had one tackle, like you said, against Grambling. And I don't think, he can't be right. Like, he doesn't feel, it's because when you go back and watch what he did at, like I said this yesterday at Oregon State, he was almost a click faster than everybody else. And you haven't played SEC play, so you can't excuse the change in the league. It just seems like something, he's not 100% healthy. He can't be. That's not a player that you take out the portal and insert as your starting middle linebacker and go, okay, that's the best we got. Because I feel like they are probably starting to look at, it would have been Weeks. If he's not healthy, that he looks a little bit faster right now. So I would imagine that Spates, if you can get him all the way healthy, that would be huge for this week. And what I think you said about Mason Smith is spot on, because Wilson said it too. He was playing high. Like, it looked like he hadn't played football in a year and a half.
Definitely.
And I don't know if you ramp up what he does in practice to be able to get him there, because he's had those reps. It just feels like he needs game reps. And I think you leave him out there if he's close to 100%, there's no snap count on him. You need him out there as long as you can, because what Mississippi State does offensively, that's the player that you need. You need to have him. You need to have – this is why you went and got Jordan Jefferson out the portal. And Jacoby and Guillory, you'll probably see a lot on the defensive front, where they probably change up their looks if Omar Spates isn't healthy, where they go to more down linemen and run like a quote-unquote bear front and just kind of clog the box and make it ugly.
Hopefully, I would think that this would be the week where Mr. Mason Smith has a real big chance to make an impact on the game. Did you see the play that Deshaun Womack made on the kickoff team?
Yeah.
I mean, like,
that's a defensive end.
Like, those are the types of plays when you look at, and I know it's not this simple, but sometimes it is, right? Where, you've just got a player like that who's just playing big, strong, and physical, who you've heard all about. He's got to have 10 to 12 snaps in him, right? He's got to have some type of opportunity to make an impact on the game just by, that play he made, he blew that kid up, man. That was I'm ready to play hit. You know what I mean? I'm tired of watching hit.
I'm announcing myself here, and everybody knows it.
And he may not be recognizable on the special teams because he's got to throw a different jersey on. Luckily, LSU doesn't look like Florida out there, where you trot two guys that has the same number and gets, just some penalty that is, inexplicable. It's just little league type stuff. Which, by the way, I was at Parkview Baptist last night for Parkview U High, the referees.
Oh,
the
God.
Don't get me going.
Don't.
Me and Hester.
Both?
Hester's kid is on U High. Hester looked up at me and said, I got him in the opening segment. I said, I'll get him around 7:30.
Can't do it.
Just pin him, bro. Yeah, you miss those holding calls. Either way, Deshaun Womack, he's got to wear 17 when he's out there on defense, but Chris Hilton is on some of the special teams units as well. Hilton wears 17. You can't have the guys on the same field with the same numbers. So when Hilton's out there, Womack's wearing 92, which he looks fantastic in.
With no name on the back.
But he's got no nameplate, which, has got to be, golly, man, for a true freshman in college football, that's got to be kind of like a,
that was all state.
Chris, you want to sit this one out?
Yeah, no, but I love what LSU's doing on special teams to have both those guys out there.
Me too.
And you can see it you saw it on the return with Caleb Jackson, where we thought he was just sitting there to be kind of like blocking for Aaron Anderson. Coach, don't kick it to him either, because he should have returned that for a touchdown. The opening kick should have been 6.
Yeah.
He gets tripped up by his own guy. But you see the level of effort from the special teams play on the kickoff, and they're all starters. It feels like some of these guys are trying to, a la Deshaun Womack even, make plays on special teams where they can get in the game, because I think they see that the door is open. The LSU is looking for answers.
LSU's got opportunities to play.
And I don't think it's a bad thing. LSU is still kind of – we acted like LSU was going to roll out and be a finished product week 1. And it's almost because you felt like they had to be because of the matchup. That's not how these things work. Look at the NFL. I know it's a totally different kind of how you prepare because you can lose a couple of games, but teams get better. And I think LSU is figuring out against different competition kind of what they need to do to be able to compete and how their team looks and who is – they're still putting the puzzle together. It's not like the pieces don't fit. It's just trying to make it as pretty as possible. Yeah. And I think that there's still that opportunity for LSU. It's not over.
No, I'm with you. And this is Brian Kelly 16 of him talking about the SEC West, right, and losing early in the year, like a lot of what we all thought to be the true contenders of the league. I mean, you look up Alabama, A&M, and LSU all has a loss. Still September. I mean, like, it's still like mid-September. I mean, it's weird, right? Here's Kelly acknowledging that.
Team.
Yeah, look, every year is a different year. Look, we could be talking in 4 or 5 weeks about, the SEC is, having such a great, it's a new cycle, it was one weekend. But I will tell you, each and every week, the SEC is going to put out great football teams, and yeah, maybe it didn't have the banner weekend in terms of the big matchups, but ask anybody if they want to play an SEC team. I'll bet they'd rather try to play somebody else. Good.
And I agree. Like, what is happening right now, though, is a shock to the system. I mean, the first 2 weeks of the college football year, the SEC was beat up. They were bullied. Yeah. And by, like, all corners. South Carolina was bullied by North Carolina. LSU was bullied by Florida State. Texas beat up on Alabama. Florida got pushed around by Utah. I mean, Texas A&M was bullied by Miami. I mean, like, that's just the facts. And it's easy, and it has been fun. I mean, sometimes it's even cooler to be aligned with the SEC than to be an LSU fan, right? Like, just to be a part of this club where you're like, I mean, who is really going to run up on you and talk any trash, especially about football? I got news for us. In 2023, the SEC is vulnerable to the start of the year. Like, outside of Georgia, which really, you don't know much about Georgia up to this point, other than that they're loaded physically and talented, but they've got a first-year starting quarterback that's not going to be tested until late October. I mean, really, maybe not until even the playoff. I mean, with the way that the SEC looks. I mean, I guess the Tennessee game right now looks good on paper.
I mean, I guess his real first test might be this weekend with South Carolina. At least that's a team. You've played Tennessee, Martin, and Ball State.
But, I mean, don't you think if the ball just rolls out there, Georgia's going to beat South Carolina by 4 touchdowns?
Yeah, but I think this is the first time you'll see him with actually have to do more than go through the motions, turn around and hand it off and you can win. There might be some third downs early where it's like, all right, let's see what you look like with pressure in your face a little bit. Because, I mean, there's people that had South Carolina competing for the East.
So did I.
Yeah.
Until I saw him get sacked 9 times by North Carolina.
Exactly. But they can still figure it out. I'm just saying that's a game that South Carolina will get up for. Like, that Beamer, that's what he does. He's kind of like his dad, where it's like, all right, let's see if we can make 1 or 2 plays early, keep you in the fight, and Beamer ball it and see if you can have a chance to win, because there's no reason to be down on South Carolina just yet. Because what did you really expect? If you want them to have 10 wins and they're not there yet, I mean, they can't have 8. I don't think they're going to beat Georgia, but at least it'll be competitive for a half.
Be interesting to see if they can.
Especially with Carson.
Right?
Like,
because
Carson Beck hasn't done anything.
I'd love to see what Georgia has.
Just punch them in the mouth
They
once.
look fantastic. You know what I mean? Physically, in warm-ups, they look like an NFL team and look like a really good NFL team. I would love to see them tested. Right? I would love to see them get into a 4-quarter game where Carson Beck's got to make a play. He's got to make a third down throw that, everybody in the stadium is waiting to see if he can make. I mean, yeah, that's just
I mean, I haven't seen
really. South Carolina, you may get a little bit of a window to see. When do they play Tennessee?
No, South Carolina?
No, Georgia. When is that game?
They play...
Isn't that like mid-October?
November 18th.
So, I mean, like, who do they play before that? I mean, Florida's no good.
Oh, they got Ole Miss on the schedule.
When is that game?
November 11th.
In Oxford?
At Georgia.
Ugh.
They catch every break, every year.
Man. They catch all the breaks. And look, I'm not discounting what they do. I mean, they've earned it. But they have caught a lot of the breaks in some of these runs.
And as far as, like, you talk about the SEC being quote-unquote down, which isn't wrong, but some of the teams that Georgia's playing are actually the teams that are probably playing some of their best football. Auburn, it doesn't look terrible with Hugh Freeze. Like, that's a sneakier game that would have been before the Hugh Freeze hire. They have them on the schedule. Vanderbilt's not as bad as we thought, maybe, and they have to play them. Like, the East isn't as down as it usually is, but you have to circle Mississippi, Ole Miss at Georgia, then Georgia at Tennessee back-to-back. That's a test. But, like we said, they catch it. I mean, that's at the back end of the year. Well, you know what you have in Carson Beck by
They're
that
going
point.
to Neyland?
Yeah. Fire up the boats.
Yeah.
Put Ugg on a boat. We'll be dead by then, I'd imagine. Roll out another one.
Ugg 8?
Yeah. PETA doesn't care about him either.
No, they don't.
That thing is suffering. They got ice bags underneath him. Why does he get to be on the sidelines and Mike Dunn? You don't think he's traumatized? It's a 40-pound overweight bulldog in the Georgia
Southern heat.
Yeah, dying. Wants to be inside. He's an inside dog.
The difference between LSU this season, Mississippi State this season and in years past is obviously the rushing attack. And Jaquavius Marks right now is coming off of a 200-yard game last week. Here is Brian Kelly talking about Mississippi State's rushing attack and the challenge that LSU faces this weekend.
I need a number.
My bad, 12.
Yeah.
Well, we know what we're getting, right? I mean, this is a lot. This is a lot different than what we've seen in the past. This is clearly something that we'll be able to prep for and prepare for during the week. But Will Rodgers is an outstanding quarterback as well. He's not going to, hand the ball off if there's 9 guys on the line of scrimmage. He's a very capable quarterback. So you got to be defeating, blocks at the line of scrimmage. We've got to have some gap integrity, and we got to play similar to the way we played in the second half.
Gap integrity. What a coaching term.
That's football.
That is football
pornography.
4,000 level. Gap integrity.
Assignment football.
Yes, indeed.
He does have that in him.
Remember, Daily, we're brought to you by Go Roof. Who needs a roof? A beautiful roof every single time. When you deal with the pros over at Go Roof, that's what you get. Call them up, 225-927-8300. I've been telling you to put that number into your phone and store it in your contacts list. That way when the roofing problems pop up, you're already locked and loaded. You know who you need to call. You need to call Go Roof, 225-927-8300. You can request a quote online at geauxroof.com. They got over 140 5-star ratings. Great service, whether it's commercial, residential, roofing repairs, roofing maintenance. Get in touch with Go Roof. You can count on roof repair, roof installation, and roof maintenance every single time over at Go Roof. 225-927-8300. 225-927-8300. Free quotes, free roof inspections, competitive pricing. You can get in touch with them today at 225-927-8300 or online at geauxroof.com. geauxroof.com. Get a 2-year free workmanship guarantee with all new roof installations with our guys over at Go Roof. That is Go Roof, a beautiful roof every single time. geauxroof.com, and you can request that quote whether it's online or call them today at 225-927-8300 to get in touch with Go Roof. All right, so obviously LSU heading into Mississippi State this weekend. This will be a hell of a test for them as the Tigers will be going into a Western Division opponent. Mississippi State starting the season pretty good under Zach Arnett. Southeastern, they beat Southeastern in week 1, and then they go into overtime last week after taking it away 5 times from Arizona to stay on and get the win there. So 2-0 Mississippi State will be hosting LSU this weekend. Some of the things that LSU needs to get tightened up, obviously, early in the season is some of the struggles of the secondary. We've talked a lot about that. And look, going into the season, I think there were questions that people were asking aloud on LSU. Did maybe people miss the mark and maybe overhype them? Yes. Guilty. Right? Like, I thought LSU was going to be better than what I've seen through the first 2 weeks. Can they still salvage and save and still compete for an SEC Western Division title? In my opinion, I think they can. I think that everything is, from what you're looking at, especially when you look around the league, right? Like, I mean, nobody's really got it right. Again, outside of Athens, and do we really know what Georgia's got? I mean, they look great.
I haven't seen a play of Georgia because there's no. I mean, I've seen highlights that like when they go to break on a different game, you're like, oh, here's Georgia putting up 56. You're like, okay.
Yeah, they've hit that like LSU 2010, 2011, 2012, where you're like,
you look up and you see the score, like,
yep. You're like, yeah, they better be.
I don't need to watch it.
Like, I'm not going to the game today.
Tennessee
do you
Martin.
remember what LSU was battling during those days? There was no crowds.
Mm-hmm.
People were leaving early. The 2013 LSU Auburn game. If you go back to it, Auburn played for a national championship that season. LSU's beating them by 3 scores. You look up, it's probably being played in front of 30,000 people. Now, it was raining, but come on, it's Tiger Stadium at night. It wasn't storming. I mean, at points it was, but it wasn't raining hard enough to wash the place out in front of a good football game. But that was just kind of the mood of the fan base at that point. That's where Georgia is now. Right, they're a little over it. You know what I mean? They're a little expected to win the build-up games, all the hype games, all the lower level games don't mean as much anymore because
wake me up in November.
They better win.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, like I guess we'll show up for Auburn. I guess we'll show up for the Tennessee game. But outside of that, I'll see you in Atlanta. And,
right, I'd say wake me up in November, December, when the season starts.
And that's where, Saban has done this at Alabama where he's berated the students and berated the fans for leaving early. But really, it's a mentality of...
You're a victim of your own success.
Yeah, it's like, man, you built this thing up. You've told us really like the big games are the ones that matter. And
you saw to quote an old LSU coach, like you saw the magic back last year because of the run that LSU kind of built up to be, and then the Alabama game was obviously the capstone of that, where this place is on fire again. LSU's rushing the field 2 times,
right?
And so now this year it feels like those expectations are heightened again.
And I think that's what last year brought, right? Like, and that's right. Like
that's what
why
this year brings.
How fun was last season to kind of have that juice back, right? Like, I mean, I remember if you're kind of old enough to remember, I mean, those 2000, 2001, 2003 games where you're still trying to crack through, right? I remember sprinting. In fact, we were talking about it yesterday. I remember sprinting down the ramps. The first time I ever sat in a premium seat at LSU was LSU, Georgia, 2003, 2:30 kickoff in the middle of the day. And I was too dumb to understand that it was just a party up there and nobody watched the game. I still thought we showed up with like a flask in our pocket. You know what I mean? Like we were sneaking liquor in. I mean, the guy was like,
hey,
throw that away.
Yeah.
I mean, like you're all taken care of upstairs. Like, I mean, like it was me and my buddy Russ Carpenter. To this day, it was he and I, and we just kind of got the tickets. Like, it was wild how it happened, right? But you just kind of end up, next thing you know, the elevator's opening and we're watching the game in premium seating. But
been there, buddy.
As Corey Webster picks the pass off, he and I take off running into nowhere. We don't even know where we're going. We're just running down the ramps, sprinting with people, looking alongside people, looking and saying, LSU's here. The table you've been trying to break into for so long, you just got a seat at. Like, if you remember, that was where Corso, Herb Street, game day was set up on the PMAC ramp across the street. They shuffled Saban across a jam-packed Tiger Stadium outside. I mean, there must have been 150,000 people outside that they golf cart Saban through to get him up on the set of game day, and the place is mayhem. I mean, like, the place is a rock concert outside. And just having the feeling of, wow, LSU football is a player. Like, LSU football is here. And once you get that feeling, once you break through and get to that, it's taken LSU 20 years to shake it.
It's like losing your virginity.
Absolutely.
I want that again.
Absolutely. And not only losing losing it to the 10-star.
Yeah,
you know,
prom
like,
queen.
I mean, like the one that everybody's like trying to get with, you know, and then like
He's with who?
You court her for 20 years, right? And then you kind of like go through a terrible, and like to get that back was last season, right? For LSU, kind of the hunger of that, the desire of getting back into that discussion where LSU's a mega brand in college football. And
I want to get back into the club.
The buildup of it has built expectations back again real quick, right? Where it's like, hey, look, it's good to be back, but if you're going to be here, you got to be able to beat Florida State.
Right.
You know, you got to be able to, you can't be getting shoved around early on by Grambling. You know, I mean, it's some things that red flags from building up those expectations.
Yeah, like
kind
I
of
said,
smoked out.
Like I said with Georgia, also a victim of their own success. LSU is in that, or Brian Kelly more specifically, is in that same vein where because he succeeded so early, then you start looking at the resume and everything that he's done. It's like, oh, and then LSU gets built up as the brand. He talked about it, the national brand. And then the talking heads start talking about LSU. It's like, oh, if LSU has, they kind of put the pieces together like we've been saying in Baton Rouge for a long time of if they get the right guy in charge, like somebody competent, you can win here.
Absolutely.
And LSU and probably a lot of talking heads are all kind of like guilty of the same thing of saying, oh, it should be this year. Like what they won the West last year. They won 10 games. Why can't it be year 2?
Look, very guilty. I mean, like, I think that I overshot the expectation. We did question a lot whether or not the defensive backfield was going to be able to guard and hold up, and that has been.
But it's no fun.
That has been. What's that?
It's no fun to do that way. You know, like before the year to really focus on the negatives. We're like, oh, they'll be figured out.
Well, I mean, you look at the at some point, I believe this offense is going to pop. Like. Really, like, I think you look at the first half of Grambling last week and you see that type of just ease of putting up points. I believe they're talented enough to do that in the league, which is why, you know, I've kind of gone into this. You may have to get into track meets every week. You may have to just be last team with the ball, you know, really. I mean, you might just have to outscore everybody and not. And again, I mean, I've this discussion this week of like kind of seeing people around town and, you know, some of the things that we've been talking about, you know, with the quarterbacks. I mean, it's not like I don't believe that Jalen Daniels cannot execute that type of offense, right? I mean, it's just how do you get there from LSU standpoint? Can you get there with Jaden Daniels? If so, that may need to be the identity, but I do believe that there is still time to work the kinks out where you slide Lance Hurd into the offensive line this week, which seems like is going to happen. Then maybe the conversation shifts again to who you are. And that's why, you know, like sitting and talking into a microphone every single day and reacting to really kind of the moment and where LSU is in the present doesn't necessarily mean that's where they're going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month from now. But evaluating them after 2 weeks, the strength of the team, in my opinion, on offense is on the outside. And for you to be competitive, you're going to have to outscore people because your defense right now is, let's just call it what it is. I mean, it's Swiss cheese. It's nothing that you can trust to put out there and say, hey, you got to have big stops to win games. I mean, for as much as we've talked about Mississippi State's rush attack with Marks, Jaquavius Marks, and the numbers that they're putting up, they're still 6'4" on the outside. And you still got Will Rodgers back there who's, put up numbers in the league and is not scared to put the ball up. And if they go 6'4" and you want to play one-on-one, as much as I know we've been all over Denver Harris, that's a mismatch for LSU. I mean, even if you put your top corner guy out there, there's still really no remedy for what you can do other than you'd have to zone him up, play cover 2, play over the top help. I mean,
that's why I think this game is perfect for LSU and a Jaden Daniels game where styles make fights, right? And it feels like Mississippi State's not going to all of a sudden go into this mode of, all right, let's go back to what we used to do. They are firmly entrenched into being a run-first football team. It looks like their head coach is the defensive coordinator, right? That's what their whole thing is, pound your head against the wall and see if it works. And up to in week 2, or up through 2 weeks, it doesn't feel like it's been. You can see that it's spread players playing that type of offense. If you're Mississippi State going up against LSU, it feels like you almost do what LSU used to do, like with those Mettenberger teams, where you might throw it 21 times, but 10 of those are going to be shot plays, where we'll run it, play action, try to hit you deep. That's really the only thing I could see that they could take advantage of LSU on the outside, because they are firmly entrenched in running the football. Last year, they threw it 42 times, and Jacobius Marks had 9 carries for 50 yards. If he touches it 9 times, he's going to have that in the first drive.
Yeah, right. I mean,
and that's what should make you nervous, because 9 carries for 50 yards is not terrible. But I think LSU going into this knowing that Mississippi State is pretty, what you see is what you get, that makes it easier to game plan for. Now, somebody in the chat had a good point of you just were using Harold Perkins back outside. Now you get into this style fight where it seems like they're going to want to run the ball a lot, and they run a zone-heavy scheme where they, I guess, try to get to the outside, but what do you do with Perkins if they're only going to throw it 20 times? It's such a mind-numbing question to have to ask.
It's not. That's what we've talked about of who he is. He's different every week.
Right.
He is a chess piece that not a lot of teams and not a lot of coaches have access to. So if you have access to this type of player, then this is what to me would be kind of like the fun of coaching him. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I would think if you're at this level and you're a defensive mind, and it still does matter of who's around him, of what he can do. I understand that. And if you're limited in personnel of what other people can do, then maybe he has to be asked to do something that he's not as comfortable doing. And that's just the way a team works, right? But I mean, in a perfect world where you've got all your guys and everybody's healthy and everybody can play their position, Harold Perkins is still that one guy every week that is a chess piece that you can move around, right? Like there are probably some weeks where schematically he may fit better in the middle, or he may play better on a spot that doesn't make sense against a team that throws the ball significantly more. But to me, that would be the fun, or that would be, the challenge of coaching a player like Perkins. But we've seen it done. Mathieu is the great example. I mean, even for a while there, the way that they would use like Russell Shepard, right? Like, I mean, they did have like times where it felt like, man, they really have figured out that Shepard doesn't really kind of fit into a box. You could play him at Wildcat. You could put him in the slot. You could put him outside. You can put him on special teams. You can return a punt. You can put him at running back. You can hand him a jet sweep. You can ask him to throw it. I mean, like whatever it may be, there's just not a lot of people in college football that could do that at the time. Okay, well, when you have that luxury, when you have that player, put them in the best position to help you win. I mean, it was refreshing to hear Brian Kelly's remarks on Harold Perkins this week. Do we have those, Lloyd? I believe we had them from earlier. I don't know if we have. I know we played it yesterday. But if we could retrieve that one and go to it, it's like, yeah. I mean, like,
yep.
Why anything else? Here's Kelly talking about Harold Perkins and what the plan is now.
Well, we wanted to free him up a little bit. He's got a lot of responsibilities playing inside, and we just needed to let him go and let him play fast. We felt like, with all of the things that we had asked him to do, we probably slowed him down a little bit. And one of the things that we have to do as coaches is know where your players are relative to, playing fast. And I think we saw in the very first play with the physicality he showed when the ball got out on the perimeter. That's not something that you want to do, is throw the ball out on the perimeter with Harold. So I think we made the right decision there. And now we'll refine what we do with him. Like, we can move him around, we can move him inside and outside and do some things that can keep him in a position to impact the game. And that's what we're trying to do.
Don't overthink it.
I mean, really, that. It's simple. I agree. And like what we were, I think the criticism is kind of like what he talked about. Like, you saw it on the first play against Grambling. Like, he's in the right spot. How could you not, a week before, like after the first series, look and say, he's out of position? We gotta flip this thing. You got to change it. And maybe it was because your personnel wouldn't allow you. And all of that stuff makes sense. And it's easy for me to come on here and bark into the microphone and say, why not, why not, why not? And there's probably a lot of qualifiers that make a lot of sense on why, right? But when he explains it like that, I'm just one of many. That's what everybody's been saying. Like, quit making him think. Quit putting him in a spot where he's out of position. Let him get out there and run. You can use him inside. You can use him outside. He's a little bit of a different piece. So that was refreshing to hear. And I think it's going to really start to help the other players as well. Right? Like, put Whit Weeks out there. I mean, he was a true freshman. Okay. I mean, like, that's where you are. That's the desperation that you're at. And now you're selling to linebackers in recruiting. You're not scared to play freshman if he's the best player. And there's great opportunity to play if you come into the program. And you can also sell the experience factor. Now you've got a guy in Whit Weeks who's going to play a significant amount of years. It's like almost like the Will Campbell, Emory Jones discussion. I mean, by the time they leave here next season after their junior year, I mean, it's going to feel like they've played 100 football games for LSU because they've been starting for nearly the first game that they showed up. So, I mean, it's everything is fine. Nothing is F, dude. Nothing is F. No, it's not all screwed up. I mean, we can find the rug. We can get this taken care of.
Tie the whole room together.
Call Walter. Call Donnie. Get the crew together.
Figure this thing out.
Track her down. Get our rug back and move on. I mean, like, it's going to be all good. We're not freaking out. We're just telling you what's going on in the moment. Remember our friends over at Tiger Air. Tiger Air, they can cool your heads off if you're out at the game. It's not just for football helmets. It's not just for sporting events. It's for you, Jane and Joe fan. You can learn more at tigerair.com. Tigerair.com. Great products. Our friend Jack and the crew, they're going to be set up in front of Mike the Tiger's cage at every home football game. So every home game that LSU is hosting this year, you can stop by and pick up your own Zephyr model of Tiger Air online at TIGERAIRE. Remember the spelling on that, AIRE.com, TigerAir.com. And whether you wear a hard hat to work, whether you wear a baseball cap every single day, whether you're in a football helmet practicing or playing on the weekends, Tiger Air has a product for you. Check it out online at TigerAir.com. They are also sponsoring and partnered with us on all of our social media. You'll see all of our socials tagged with Tiger Air. Give them a like and follow and share on all of their socials to keep up with with all of their announcements and new products and what they got going on. So really cool. Check out Tiger Air. Just clip it on the top of your hat right here. You can clip it on your chain, clip it on your shirt, wherever it is, and you can pick up yours today. Great logo. Phenomenal logo.
I think there's going to be some iterations of this thing that are going to – do you remember like the old school like fan with the squirt bottle that you would bring to the game and you're like, I'm not going to bring that with me, but I'm going to use it if somebody else has one. This is like a much more convenient way to have it so you don't look like a nerd. But if they make like a little mist on this thing where it starts, you know, spraying a little water, get you going, like the Tiger Air 3.0 is going to be a massive success. And then you go 5.0 and make it a vape.
They are easy over there, buddy.
I'm just giving ideas. I'm just giving them ideas. That was
sure,
free.
I'm sure they love it. I'm sure they love our creative department over here.
The brain trust
at the Culotta Show. Thanks, guys. We'll do the
We'll make one.
We'll be doing the prototypes over here.
I'll test it.
But check them out online. As you can hit them up at tigerair.com. But that was good to hear from Brian Kelly, right? You know, I mean, like I've had a lot of people talk to me about the Harold Perkins situation this week. Even our friend Noelle Chabert from Signa Frames, who's now on board, gifted us, Lloyd, the Harold Perkins jersey. She left it for us, and I was like, Noelle, man, thank you so much for the jersey. Lloyd, if you want to get a shot of that.
I'm spinning her around.
And she was like, well, I mean, I hear how much you talk about Harold Perkins. And I was like, there's nobody else that would, you know, this would fit more. And I hate to become, you know, like that just loudmouth for Perkins type guy. But I mean, like, I can remember last year, like even, you know, like Kelly, my wife being like, the Perkins thing, like, you got to chill, you know, like, I mean, like,
oh, you almost blew a gasket after Tennessee.
But what happened after Tennessee?
Yeah, I mean, somebody heard you.
He became the best player in the country.
But no, you've just been pounding the drum for a long time, so I get it, because it's rare you get a generational player like this, right? Like, it's happened, I guess, twice since I've been at LSU.
Absolutely it has. It's happened twice. It's happened twice since I've been alive.
Right.
I mean, like, there have been great players. I would say Burrow would be the third.
I was Burrow, Tyrann Mathieu. Who did you have?
Oh, I had Perkins. I mean, I was.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if he's in the club yet.
Not yet, but I mean, like, he was.
Should be.
He was trending.
He's knocking on the door.
I mean, he was trending
got a wristband.
to a spot that was just. I mean, like, my God. I mean, like, you haven't seen it since. Really, Mathieu. I mean, Burrow, I think, will always kind of live in a world of his own, just because that position, those numbers, the wins, his mentality. The dude, I mean, like, you know, I think, you know, from what I've seen, Mathieu was always kind of this untouchable figure. Perkins is the closest I've ever seen to him, of just one person that can wreck a game from a position that not necessarily is known for being able to take over a game.
Well, and that's what
you're
saying.
Like Burrow's position,
he touches the ball every play.
I mean, you could take the game over. You saw Johnny Manziel. I mean, you've seen so many of them.
But yeah, it's just where that's what I think. Maybe it's like undue pressure on not only the coaching staff but on Perk to be like, go do what you did last year every game, and you saw him phase in and out of certain games where it stylistically maybe didn't call for it, but to expect him to do something on the Tyrann Mathieu front, maybe that's LSU fans' fault where they put this undue pressure on him to go, because you've seen it once, right? Or it's go out and make a play. Somebody's done it before. You can do that, right?
Yeah.
And
like the old schoolers would tell you, like Tommy Casanova,
right,
was like that type of person where like he was like a punt guy, a defensive back. You could like put him in different positions. So like, I mean, Billy Cannon went both ways. You know, like I'm not here to say like it's never happened, but the way those two dudes could like just
change your game.
Like some of the plays that Perkins made against Arkansas, some of the plays that Tyrann Mathieu
made against
Arkansas. I mean, some of the plays that those guys that just like spring up and make, where you're like, whoa, that is different. Like you just don't have that in every recruiting class. That's why if I'm a coach, I look at the situation and be like, that's got to be pretty fun to have come along every 10 years. I mean, you know, what Mathieu was here 12 years ago. Harold Perkins shows up 11 years later. So
right.
You get once every 10 years, you get a guy that comes through here that you're like, hey, we can do something a little different with this player.
Get you a contract extension.
Right? I mean, like, absolutely. He'd make you a head coach if you're a defensive coordinator. So, I mean.
And I think that's kind of what it's become on the Perkins front, because everybody's expecting him to do something. And, like, even the one tackle he made, it was explosive. You see it every time he's around the football. Something's going to happen. But it almost feels like there's more pressure on Matt House than it is fun. Like, it's almost like the expectations to use him correctly, because you know what kind of player he is. And instead of him being like, oh, I got this cool new toy, he's like, I don't want to break it.
I don't know how to drive it.
Right.
You know, like,
keep it in the garage, brother.
Yeah, right. Like Cameron.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
This car.
It's the Ferrari.
Yes.
I mean,
the miles aren't coming off.
We're taking it out, Cameron.
This car.
We're driving it.
Yeah.
Get the keys.
You're not sick.
I mean, like, Matt House is Cameron.
Uh-huh.
And Ferris Bueller is Saban.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, if you don't want him, I'll take him.
I'll drive it.
I mean, like, figure it out, man. Put this guy in a space and just let him be Harold Perkins.
And all the fans work at the valet drivers. Like, let me drive it.
Yeah.
Take it out for a spin. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right. Guard this thing with your life, boys. Like, you got it.
Uh-huh.
You know? That's Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
You know? That's Kirby Smart and Jimbo Fisher.
Right. Oh, this is for Lee's?
All right, second hour coming your way. We're going to talk to Jacques to start you off. We're over here at Click Here Digital. We're on campus every single day. 20,000 square feet of office space, over 120 employees, all motivated to make you a digital marketing plan that works for you and your company. I tell you all the time, if it's your company, if you're looking for your company's phone to ring more, if you're looking for foot traffic to walk through the door, if you're looking for clicks on your website, Click Here Digital can make all of that happen for you today. If you want a direct contact, you can email me, Jordy@clickheredigital.com, or it's easy to log online and check out the very informative, the very easy to navigate, very easy to learn about Click Here Digital's website at clickheredigital.com. ClickHereDigital.com. Place is a monster right here in Baton Rouge. You don't know anything about it, learn about it, get in touch with me on how we can help your business make more money today. Hour 2, Jacques Doucet coming up. We're also going to learn more about, as we said, we talk to our friends over at Ochsner all the time. Great partners over at Ochsner. Dr. Jeremy Burnham and I went to school together, grew up together. He is now over there leading the sports medicine department, doing a great job, man. Just incredibly proud of him. He's got a great team over there. We're going to talk to one of his team members this morning over at Ochsner, Dr. Jeff Hogan. Dr. Hogan's going to be here at 8:30 this morning. Wanted to tap into our friends over at Ochsner and use our resources there. Talk to him about, like the rehab that a 39-year-old quarterback in the NFL has coming off of an Achilles injury, what the likelihood of Aaron Rodgers returning. And we keep hearing turf toe pop up in sports injuries, and Peyton Turner has suffered that down with the Saints, and not necessarily with what Turner is dealing with, but just that injury in itself. What is turf toe? I think we all kind of hear that term and sometimes think it sounds like it doesn't really hurt. We'll have Dr. Hogan explain a little bit of that injury to us at 8:30 this morning, and that comes with our great partnership over at Ochsner. So
seems to keep happening to the Saints too,
and it pops up a lot. Like Deion Sanders, I remember lost
a toe.
Yeah, but I mean, like, his playing career was he was hampered by turf toe all the time. I mean, you would hear that around his name. That was the first time I had ever heard of the injury, was Deion Sanders. I was a kid. And, we would hear that Deion Sanders, and you just never had. I actually experienced it my senior year in high school.
Me too.
I had it.
It's brutal.
It's brutal. It is brutal, especially for like a skill player. Like if you're pushing off, if you're cutting, if you're, start-stop type of player. I mean, it's painful, man. I mean, it's like jamming your, it's like.
God, I can still feel it.
Me
like
too.
When you talk about it.
I can too. And you could look at it and tell. I mean,
it looks like you have gout.
I mean, it's like a grapefruit, man.
Take off your cleat, your sock, because soaked in blood. You're like, oh, it does hurt.
And they had like a special tape job.
Yeah, like the
they
bow
would
tape.
Do it, like you would tape the big toe and around the heel. I mean, it was brutal, man. It was brutal. We will talk to Jeff Hogan, Dr. Jeff Hogan, coming up here in the 8 o'clock hour as well from our friends over at Ochsner. Come back with us, hour 2. Jacques will stop through. We'll talk more about this LSU Mississippi State matchup coming up on Saturday. We got more cuts from Brian Kelly. Give you more thoughts before we get out of here at 9 a.m. Hit a like button, a share button, comment, interact with us here. Where are we? 92. Not bad. Not bad. 93. I saw we just got one more. Let's try to get 100 here for the 7 o'clock hour. They get 100 more for the 8 o'clock hour. Appreciate everybody's interaction. It's been awesome.
Party.
It's been awesome. Hour 2, come back with us next.
The Jordy Culotta Show is brought to you by A-Bears Lawn Maintenance. Commercial or residential, A-Bears Lawn Maintenance is ready to work. A-Bears can tackle all your homeowners association requirements. Call Blake at 225-485-8022. A-Bears Lawn Maintenance.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team.
Here you go.
Thanks. And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us. Get it done.
Hey Tiger fans, when you're traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, make sure to visit Tom and Wright Granning at Go Mart and On The Go Deli, where you can fill up your tank and your belly. Go Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you may need on your trip. Located at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left. Also stop by Wardo's Po' Boys at 309 North Broadway on the beautiful Natchez Bluff, where the Po' Boys are so good you'll swear you're in Cajun country.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
All right, buddy. Make it a good shot.
Oh, yeah.
Sticking the roof in.
Overhauled in your roof, or a whole new roof. Go roof. Roof, roof. Go roof.
Hey, Greg, the roof up?
Roof's up. Roof's up. Roof's up.
Roof's up?
Roof's up.
Roof's up! Beautiful roof every single time.
True. True.
Phil's Oyster Bar, a staple of South Louisiana since 1945, located in Southdown Shopping Center and online at philsoysterbar.com. If you log online, you can learn about the private party schedule, the catering menu, and even order online. Daily lunch specials Monday through Friday. Learn about the history when Gus Piazza took it over in the early 70s, made it an absolute stop-in for everyone who came through Baton Rouge, and now Anthony, his son, carrying on the tradition. Phil's Oyster Bar, Southdown Shopping Center, and online, philsoysterbar.com.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team.
Here you go.
Thanks. And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us. Get it done.
If you're in the market for a mortgage lender, you need to start with Doug Bickley and his team. Bickley has built a crew with over 50 years of combined lending experience. They've been in business for over 20 years, and they love helping their clients achieve the American dream of home ownership. They're also key with working in real estate agents and helping their clients getting same-day pre-approval. They average about one buyer a day getting them in a home. If you want to get in touch with Doug and his crew, it's easy. Call them 225-214-5154. 225-214-5154. Go see the Bickley team today. They're located on the corner of Coursey Boulevard and Sherwood Forest right here in Baton Rouge.
Defensive Player of the Game from LSU, Joe Burrow.
Football is life. Football is Joe Burrow.
All right, welcome back here to the show live here on this Wednesday from our campus over here at Click Here Digital. Make sure and give us a like, share, and follow before you get out of here. If you have not subscribed to the channel, shoot us a subscription. And if you want to know when we go live, you can hit that bell to get notified like we will. We started coming to you on Sunday nights. We will have a Sunday night show. No set time yet. We're just kind of the schedule and how it's working, but just sometimes Sunday evening. As long as you have that bell set, you'll be good in catching up with us as we go live here from Click Here Digital's campus, and brought to you daily by R&B Builders. Appreciate everybody interacting with us in the first hour. Jacques texted, said the traffic is brutal out there, and he's going to be through here at some point before we get out of here, and looking forward to catching up with him. Some of the chat inside of our YouTube watch app over here. Make sure that you're interacting with us. Justin McVicker says what gets overlooked is Tyrann Mathieu's freshman highlights. Well, that's kind of where the comparison started, right? With Harold Perkins, was the last time you've seen a freshman come through here and have as big of an impact as Perkins did last season, was really why Mathieu's name kept coming up. Obviously, his ability to create turnovers, both of them, Perkins and Mathieu, was something that really kind of was a common denominator. But moreover, it was just the sudden impact that both of them were able to create and have, right? I mean, from true freshmen and being first-year players to the responsibility they had. I mean, Mathieu was sack stripping in the opener his freshman season. I mean, he was coming off the edge, like creating fumbles, almost nearly scooping and scoring. I mean, still to this day, the most phenomenal highlight he made of his freshman year was the screen pass in the swamp, where he puts pressure on the quarterback, hits the quarterback, and hits the ground after hitting the quarterback, gets up and chases the screen pass down, strips the ball out of the ball carrier. The ball hits the ground and he falls on it. I mean, I remember being like, good Lord, look at this kid. I mean, and you would meet him that was the first year I had ever covered LSU football. It was 2010, his true freshman year. And my first day in, kind of LSU media, covering LSU football media, was his first day being exposed as an LSU football player to the media. And we kind of ended up standing right next to each other. And I had no idea that, he was the honey badger. I had no idea that he was coming.
Didn't know.
I mean, I think he did know, looking back on it, that when you get him on the field, and at this point, he had already known. This is about 2 weeks before the season started. This was kind of what would be called media day back in the day. They don't even do it anymore. This is when you would bring every single player out. You would sit them in a chair around the indoor facility, and the media would have 2 hours to walk around and get all of the sound that you were looking for. And this was the only time that you could talk to true freshmen, because Miles had a rule where true freshmen didn't speak to the media. And, I mean, you would stand next to him and you were like, I mean, he was literally my size. I mean, really, he was 5'9", 170 pounds. I mean, he was your average frat dude. I mean, he was.
I'm watching right now. I mean, it's just he has no business playing like this at that size. Like you said, it's just he's
And then you would see
he's
him
just throwing his body around like a
see him on
madman.
the field, and you're like,
Cardell's ready on demon time,
this
dude.
dude is the best player on the field. I mean, like, he's just running around out here, like. And what quickly came to realize on both of these guys, Perkins and Mathieu, is that they're probably the smartest football player out there in the room. Instinctively is what separates them. That's why they're there a step and a half faster than the ball carrier is. They know the game better than just about anybody out there. Maybe even including some of the coaches. I mean, Mathieu in a boardroom or in a team room now, I mean, I have heard stories since he's been down at the Saints of him, like, literally, and no disrespect to anybody defensively down there, but, like, he'll take a meeting over.
Who's not going to listen?
Exactly. No, the coaches are like,
yeah,
they throw him the dry erase. You know what I mean? Like, take it. It's that to me is, you know, kind of like now having time to watch Tyrann Mathieu become a Super Bowl champ, the highest paid safety at the league at some point, the best safety in the league at certain points, all pro bowler, all of it. I mean, he's got all of it. He's got all the awards that football can offer to his position and to the sport. What really separated Tyrann Mathieu, in my opinion, was his IQ, his brains, his ability to read it before you even threw it, played it.
You have to have a certain, I mean, obviously.
Perkins has that.
Yeah, the talent's undeniable, but if you put yourself in those positions, like Tyrann Mathieu's around the football a lot because he knows where it's going, and then that's when you let the talent take over. And I don't know what you do. I mean, it's hard to watch that and see. I don't know what you do with, because they play different positions. It's hard to put Harold Perkins in those situations because he's still so raw at the linebacker position.
He is, but he's instinctively as a football player.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know how much you want to coach him without, like, if he already clearly he knows the defense and he knows what he's supposed to be doing. And you saw him actually thinking on the football field for the first time against Florida State, where it was going, I need to go exactly where my assignment is, and that's what I'm going to do. Like, he wasn't playing with any flow within the game. He was doing assignment football, which is fine if you're a normal player. If you're him, like, don't do that. You know, like, kind of let your instincts take over, and you can make a mistake because 9 out of 10 times, whatever you think you're supposed to do,
play yourself out of it.
Right? Do whatever you think is the right way to play. Because we had Harry Coleman on with Mikey Mottog and Jared Mitchell and mic'd up, and he's like, 90% of the time Tyrann Mathieu was coming off the edge, that shit wasn't called. Like, he just saw something. He's like, I'm going. And that's kind of what nobody knows, that you can't coach that. It's not like they were scheming Tyrann Mathieu up. He was literally just roaming around the football field making plays because what he saw on tape or what he studied, like, that's where I see something. Mm-hmm. And once you know tendencies and you have that ability, Harold Perkins needs to do the same thing where it's, okay, whenever I see this, like, I'm making the decision on what I want to do. And it's not selfish if you're that good.
No, and, you know, for all, you know, intents and purposes, those guys are reactionary players. You know, like, they are reacting to the play is how they're making their play, right? I mean, like, they are instinctively reacting to what they're seeing in football, which in my opinion is their advantage. Absolutely. Right? Like, when Brian Kelly said earlier this week, like, it was, you know, he was out there thinking, and it's like, well, come on, man. Like, how many people does it take to sit in a room and say, hey, we got to strip that away from him?
Park, you can go home early.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, come on. Like, we got to get the principle has to be the opposite of that. Like, you got to get him away from thinking out there because he is thinking out there. You know, like, that's what he already is a 4,000 level student for us. Don't
make him go to 2 classes at once.
Right, like, don't throw him more work. He's already a high performer. He's already seeing it and understands it better than just anybody out there. That's why I kind of thought the see ball, hit ball theory on Harold Perkins, yeah, it's easy to say that, but that's not really what he's doing. You know, it's not like you're like, hey, man, just wherever you, like, he's He's seeing blockers. He's finding hole.
It's
The
not an
most
accident.
impressive thing that Harold Perkins does, in my opinion, is the way that he makes himself small on the field in the middle of chaos. I mean, some of those shots of him where he is spying, where he is delayed blitzing, where he is getting through the hole on blitzes, and the way that he's able to kind of shimmy and kind of work himself through offensive linemen, battling defensive linemen, through running backs who are trying to chip and shave and crack on him, to everything that's happening at that, just in the middle of all of that, and the way he's able to kind of dip, dive, and get low, and the things that he's able to do as far as kind of shielding himself out there to put himself in a position to make the play is what is his advantage. That's not, I mean, I guess that is, go get the ball, but it's a ton of skill to get there, right? Like, it's a ton of instinct to get there. A little WD-40 on that.
JD.
Sorry
I used
about
the right
traffic.
kind.
This is not your grandmother's studio. This is definitely old school coming out here from where you're coming from.
Good morning. I know
Jacques is here. Good morning.
Yeah.
If you want to get before we throw you on camera, you good? Do you want to take a deep?
A TV moment.
Yeah, right.
Well,
let me get yourself in line
get
over
yourself
there.
in gear.
Hughes Mechanical, our AC partner over here, can help you get ready for football season. It's cool outside. It's starting to get a little crisp outside. The fall is starting to dip into the deep south. So if you want to have your heater serviced or looked at, if you want to have your heater checked, get in touch with Hughes Mechanical Contractors. Maybe not time to start talking heaters. If you still need that AC serviced and want residential and or commercial service, you can trust our friends over at Hughes Mechanical Contractors. Tell Travis Hughes that you heard it right here. Remember, they're a trusted Daikin dealer over at Hughes Mechanical with a great warranty. They're located in Zachary and serve all of South Louisiana. They're one of the best in the North Shore, over in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Zachary, throughout the South Louisiana corridor. They can help you out. HughesMechanical.net and 225-658-2147. Most trusted and experienced professionals that you can find here in South Louisiana. Find them online, HughesMechanical.net. Every Wednesday we talk to our friend Jacques Doucet of WAFB. Of course, he is part of that WAFB 9 sports team, which we're looking forward to the Cecil Collins documentary that is set to debut. Huge build-up, and looking forward to watching that. I can't go anywhere now without somebody asking me about it because they saw it on the show with Jacques, and people ask, have you seen it? I'm like, no, I've seen everything you've seen, but I know the people behind it, and I have worked with Darren DeQuano on documentaries before. And I know the type of work he puts out. And if DeQuano is getting pissed at Jacques for putting out information about the documentary, that tells me that DeQuano thinks it's good. And if he thinks it's good, pop your popcorn. I mean, get ready, because it's going to be awesome. It's going to be must watch. Jacques, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I realize I live in Baton Rouge, but the traffic is next level impossible this morning. Essen, Airline, I don't know what's going on, but it's a parking lot everywhere.
Gross.
Usually takes me 20 minutes to get here. It took me like 45.
Gross.
So, anyway,
sorry. Thank you
glad
for the
to be here
commitment.
with
Thank
you.
you.
It's good to see you. So LSU last week, they exercised some demons for sure. They hang 70 on Grambling, but they do leave some door open for conversation around the defense. Before we get into all of that, tell me what your takeaway was from LSU's second game of the season and their home opener.
Well, the most discouraging thing was that Grambling on their first 3 possessions racked up 238 yards worth of offense. If they would have run like a trick play, if they would have faked a punt, if they would have done some things to, get you a gotcha touchdown, that's one thing. But they methodically drove the ball down the field. Touchdown on their first drive, they chip shot field goal on their second, and then missed a chip shot on their third. So basically, I don't know, Grambling kind of self-destructed to an extent on some of those drives. But that attached to the end of the Florida State game is not a good run for the defense. Now, LSU's offense just overpowered Grambling. This was a scrimmage basically from their standpoint. 10 possessions, 10 touchdowns or 7 touchdowns, right? They scored a touchdown every possession. Yeah, 10 for 10.
Right.
10 for 10. The math, okay. 70. And then a safety, 72. So, Jaden Daniels threw the ball deep to Chris Hilton. That was a big question we all had after the first game. Where was Chris Hilton? And he brings the speed aspect to the wide receiver room. You heard Brian Kelly after the game saying that Chris Hilton wants to be a more complete receiver. He doesn't just want to be the speed guy that takes the top off the defense. So that was encouraging to see. The running back tandem was completely different from the Florida State game or who they decide to run. Josh Williams got, I think, 6 carries, but Logan Diggs comes back and is healthy. And then Caleb Jackson basically eats up the whole second half. So I guess the question is, does LSU trust Caleb Jackson on the road in the SEC at Mississippi State? Will he be getting a lot of carries? And is Diggs your guy too? John Emery will be back this week, but very similar to a year ago, right? He missed his first 2 games, and his debut was against Mississippi State, and I think he got a little bit of action against Mississippi State last year, but then there was the whole conditioning thing. So those were a few takeaways. I know Denver Harris started, and I know I heard you talk about it. Yes, defensive backs are going to give up touchdowns. They're scored in games. So that's going to happen. But it seemed like, I guess, after the initial touchdown and the pass interference a little bit later, which was maybe a ticky-tack call, or it could have gone either way, that maybe he settled in. But you heard Coach Kelly say that he wants to be coached. He didn't like watching, and that hopefully, they're on the same page with the attitude and all of that. But very interesting SEC opener coming up. Like we had talked about, there was really nothing LSU could have done this past weekend that would have really moved the needle a whole lot with the fans. This is kind of your reset button in terms of playing a team of similar talent. SEC opener, Starkville, Mississippi, early in the morning. And a much different Mississippi State team offensively than we've seen in the past. I think Will Rodgers threw the ball 683 times in 2021, 610 times last year. When LSU went over there the last time, Jordy, which only 2 years ago, but was a totally different galaxy. Max Johnson was your quarterback, threw 4 touchdowns in the game. Kayshon Boutte caught 2 touchdowns in the game. And Will Rodgers threw the ball 62 times that day against LSU. So he threw the ball 17 times last week. So from what I've talked to, I interviewed 3 Mississippi media guys for some coverage this week. They all said, look, they're going to throw the ball a lot more than 17 times this week. So I think they're going to test the LSU secondary. And Jo'quavious Marks, Woody Marks as they call him, is now the center of the offense as opposed to Will Rodgers was the center of the offense in the past.
What do you make of his comments on Harold Perkins, and what do you think he'll be used as this week?
I think they're edging more and more away from what they did in the season opener. I think they're trying to find a sweet spot between trying to make him a more complete linebacker and then also him rushing off the edge a little bit more. So what did you make of it, what he said?
Well, I mean, thank you. not to me, but just everybody. I mean, it's good to hear. Like, that's obvious, right? Like, I mean, he's so good that it's obvious. Like, to me, it's hard to mess up a player like
neutralize your top player.
But it's hard to make him look lost out there. He's so good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, it's hard to make a good player look confused.
Yeah. So I'm in a game like this, if LSU's defense gets pushed around and has a long day, then there's a problem because Mississippi State's in transition. Zach Arnett, the defensive coordinator, he gets promoted to the head coach. A defensive coordinator perhaps says, hey, we need some more physicality in this offense, less finesse. Maybe from his perspective, he sees the weaknesses in the air raid offense, and maybe they peaked with it. But last week against Arizona, they only gained 307 yards the entire game, and that included an overtime session. So early on, it seemed like Mississippi State was going to blow Arizona out, and Jaden DeLaura at Arizona, they just kind of let him play street ball, man. He just kind of runs around and chunks it, and it's either an interception or it's a 40-yard gain. But Mississippi State is still in a transition offensively where they are not hitting on all cylinders, and Will Rodgers, has put up huge numbers. He's always been said to not have a very big arm. He's not a guy who really stretches the field. He can do it here and there. So I would think that they're going to test LSU's defensive backs. I would think that You know, I keep hearing from several people that this is a Mekhi Wingo type game too, that, you know, he should maybe feast in a game like this. Talked to him yesterday. He says he feels like Mississippi State, their strength is they like to run the ball. We feel like we can stop the run. And really, LSU did against Florida State. I mean, of all the things that went wrong, that wasn't really a huge problem, stopping the run against Florida State. And, you know, Grambling popped a few last week on you. So I just think that's the fear. You know, if you have another defensive start like you did against Grambling in an SEC contest and you're behind 17-0 in a day game where it's going to get pretty warm and you got the cowbells and all that on the road, but you're a 10-point favorite. You're supposed to win. And I do kind of wonder, is this maybe the game where LSU asserts themselves and looks like the team that we were expecting this year?
You mentioned Mason Smith coming back and obviously what he could mean this weekend. Where do you kind of judge his health? He's a little further behind than I thought he was. I kind of thought he was going to play every snap against Florida State if he would have been available, but kind of judging him last week, he may have been a little bit more, you know, set back as more than we thought.
Yeah. One thing that Coach O used to always say that I think is true is, you know, conditioning gets you in shape for preseason ball, and then preseason ball gets you in shape, or you try to get in shape for football, but there's no way to really emulate playing and going full go. So, you know, I don't think he made a tackle until the first play of the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken. And I think that might have been his only tackle in the game. So I know that defensive players do more things than register tackles and sacks and tackles for loss. They eat up offensive linemen for the linebackers to do other things. But, yeah, I mean, at halftime in the press box, we were kind of chatting, and we're like, man, Mason didn't really have an impact in the first half. So, you know, maybe, as the old cliche, make the biggest jump from week 1 to week 2. But I certainly think that in a game like this, in which, you know, Jaquavius Marks has run for 250 total in the first 2 games, they're going to feed him a lot and, you know, try to establish. They're getting back to the old Mississippi State. The old Mississippi State was big, physical, and when LSU played them, although that LSU's won a very, very large majority of the games over the last 30 years, I think even Curly Hallman was 3-1 against Mississippi State. When you played the game afterwards, you know, it was you were in the hot tub because they were big and physical, and you had been in a physical game. So they're trying to get back to that a little bit. Certainly the 2000 game in Tiger Stadium is one I remember for sure when they Wayne Matkin.
Love that one.
They called him
Fred
Chris
Smoot.
Rock. Yeah. What's that?
Fred Smoot.
Fred Smoot, yeah. The
dog pound romp. Remember they would do the sideline romp on the kickoffs?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good stuff. That was the Brandon Tillfield and Dominic Davis took over that game.
Josh, the overtime game?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
Josh
what you
Booty
saw.
playing quarter.
Yeah, and you saw Nick Saban show a little bit of emotion. It was weird. On
It was like 8 o'clock game.
Tillfield scored the game winner. There's a great picture of him like standing over the Mississippi State defender. That Mississippi State defense was legit.
Yeah, they were a very good team.
They were legit, man. They were flying around that night. I mean, Smoot was a first rounder. They had a first round defensive tackle. I mean, was that Jackie Sherrill?
No, it was it was Jackie Sherrill.
Jackie Sherrill?
Jackie Sherrill and Jolie Dunn.
Yes.
The defensive coordinator. I think there was them. They had a guy named Pork Chop Womack. Pork Chop Womack.
That's right.
But yeah, over the years, LSU's just had their number perhaps more than any other team in the league. I remember they even in '98 when LSU was struggling, State came in and LSU beat them 41-6. For the longest time, the only game that they had won was in 1999 when Jared DiNardo was on his way out, and they said on a 4th and goal, the State running back, he had hit the ground like at the 1, and then he just rolled over and then just rolled into the end zone, and they gave him a touchdown. But anyway, yeah, I mean, this is your reset button. This is getting in the SEC ball, and then similar from a year ago, when you Mississippi State jumped out on you 13-0, you rallied, and really, from Mississippi State's standpoint, their fear from their defense's standpoint is that they're not great on the edge, and they just fear that Jaden Daniels is going to scramble on them all day. And the last drive of the first half last year, you remember LSU was down 13-0. I think Jaden took off on like 3 straight runs and then threw a touchdown to Jeray Jenkins at the end of the first half there.
That's right. Lance Hurd made his debut last week. How much impact do you think he has this weekend, and how long do you think it takes before he's one of the starting 5?
Well, very similar to Emory Jones, right? I mean, Emory he did interviews yesterday and started by the third game. It was the Mississippi State game. He started. Made that tackle at midfield on special teams, too, which in the preseason he said that was a very touching moment because his father passed away when he was 5 years old. And his father and his cousin, or his uncle Ludd, I think was his name, said they dreamed of watching him at midfield playing Tiger Stadium, you know. And for him to make the tackle right at midfield was big. But I think that Hurd definitely has the confidence. We've heard about that from day one, how Coach Kelly said, I know you got a left tackle. I know who Will Campbell is. I'm going to be your left tackle way back when. But he's not going to be the left tackle. But obviously, I think he's got the confidence, the size, and you've heard Coach Kelly compliment him. And this guy's a future pro as well. So it'll be interesting. You know, the cowbells will be clanging, and it is not going to Jordan-Hare Stadium or the Swamp or Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's not one of your bigger SEC venues, but it can get pretty loud in there. And I would expect they would have 55,000, 60,000, something like that.
If Lance Hurd's inserted and he becomes a starter, there's an opportunity where LSU becomes a really physical team, right? I mean, this offensive line kind of steps up, and Hurd, I think he gives you like a 2-for-1 because not only do you get a new tackle, you get a new guard in Emory Jones. If they're not a power team, does the quarterback deserve to be looked at as far as somebody that could make them a playmaking team? We've talked a little bit about this week. I've also said that we're not trying to start a quarterback controversy, which seems like it's a little bit, you know, kind of going in the opposite direction. But I'm just kind of, for instance, of the team, right? Like, I mean, I got 15 games of data on Jaden Daniels. You can win the West with Jaden Daniels. If the strength of the team is on the outside and the offensive line is not who you think they are, does Garrett Nussmeier, does he deserve more run?
Well, you just see it in terms of what was the first play. First play Nussmeier's in the second half. It's a drop back. It's a look. It's a fire 20-yard out. Who he threw it to? I forgot. Brian Thomas. One of those guys. And so there is that element in there. Now, statistically, Jaden couldn't have been any better, right? But then you're playing Grambling, and so is he going to make a 45 or a 50-yard pass down the field to Chris Hilton in an SEC game? Are those kind of things going to happen? Or are we getting back to the dig routes on the sidelines and the quick slants and the rollouts to Mason Taylor and those kind of things that we've seen in the past? So they took Jaden Daniels to SEC Media Days. He was voted the team MVP. There seems to be a very united front that Jaden's our guy, and certainly as a scrambler, he does some electric things. And the SEC West is going to be wide open, or it appears to be that way. Yeah. Even a team like Texas A&M that got embarrassed at Miami, well, that was Miami, and it just seems like the non-conference games are not going the SEC's way. They're going to be playing each other. And I mean, I guess it's a thing people are going to discuss for a while. I mean, if it was Jaden Daniels and Ricky Collins, we have no discussion whatsoever. Right. But it's Jaden Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier, and the guy has proven he can fire the thing down the field. And your wide receivers caught the ball last weekend, although Brian Thomas had one drop, and he made up for it, caught the touchdown. But they need to catch the ball in a game like this, too.
I agree. Dante Williams, it won't be a controversy if you don't talk about it. Talking Head Show. Sorry, Dante. What'd you make of Logan Diggs?
Good. Physical. Straight ahead, north and south. Leaped into the air.
He's anxious, though.
Spun around. Post-game interview, he's got glasses and he's real mellow, and he said that his favorite R&B person was Mariah Carey, which don't expect to hear from a 20, 21-year-old athlete. Usher.
Old soul.
Brought up Mariah Carey and Usher, which for some students,
you can check his birth certificate.
Who is that?
That's
some
me.
people, Mariah Carey say, oh, that's that Christmas song, People like us who grew up in the 90s and the 2000s or whatever. But, I think that he's happy to be home. He came out of New Orleans. He followed Brian Kelly to Notre Dame, and now he's back at LSU. And so is it are those two going to be the guys? Are you going to ride Logan Diggs and Caleb Jackson this weekend? I don't know. And then slip in some John Emery. Where does Josh Williams fit in? Noah Kane did the kind of the mop-up duty last week and got the game ball. We were hearing about Armani Goodwin coming back from his injury. So all these dudes back there.
Only one ball.
Yeah, same. I mean, even in the Kevin Falk, Rondell Mealy, Cecil, Kendall Cleveland days, you can really only play about 3, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what's the latest on Cecil?
The Cecil Collins documentary will air October the 15th. It'll air at 10 o'clock on Sunday. It's a Sunday night. We chose that weekend because it's the weekend LSU plays Auburn at home. And, of course, that was 26 years ago that Cecil ran for 234, 240, whatever it was, against Auburn in Tiger Stadium. And Rondo Mealy, by the way, had like 130 in that game, too.
Right. Didn't he have like a big kickoff return?
Maybe so. Cecil had a kickoff return.
Okay.
Rondell might have had one, too. But, yeah, Cole Kubelik at SEC Media Days, I talked to him about, we were doing this, and he brought up the box score and said they ran for 370 or something. We ran for 65, 70, and we won the game somehow. Damian Craig let him down the field on the final drive of the game. There was an infamous 3rd and 2 call in that game where LSU, instead of giving the ball to Cecil, called a rollout pass with Herb Tyler, threw incomplete, and LSU had to punt. I thought that play was later in the game than what it was. It was like midway through the 4th quarter. So, but funny, real quick, an old Paul Gates story. So Paul Gates, who of course was the Mr. Investigative,
the best.
The guy that you did not want showing up at your house.
Yes, that's right.
Unless he was to help you investigate someone else. If you saw Paul Gates, it's a bad sign. So Paul Gates, and Jerry DiNardo actually saw it on TV because I saw the clip. And so somebody was getting indicted somewhere, like down at the state capitol or something, and they're walking him out, and they're pounding him with questions, and Paul Gates is up there, and it's, sir, what do you have to say for yourself? And the guy just says, I believe LSU should have run that ball. Just out of the blue, right? It was right after the Auburn game, they threw the ball instead of giving it to Cecil. I believe LSU should have run that ball. And DiNardo at the press conference said, yeah, some guy's getting indicted. He didn't want to talk about his own problems. So he said.
Hey, that's how you make fast friends.
So we're worried about my noodles, Jerry. Run the football.
So yeah, it's great. Like all this old Jerry DiNardo stuff, and I love Jerry DiNardo. I mean, I think a lot of people for 3 years. He was extremely popular.
He was until he opened the restaurant.
And the Ford commercials, right?
That's right.
Was it old Ford? He was. I love my truck. He loves his truck. It's a Ford for me. He loves that truck.
Was it Hollingsworth?
I don't know who the dealer was, but he was like a lot of heart and a whole lot of soul. Right. Buy a Ford truck and let the good times roll. They're like,
Jacques, what a memory!
He was like
recall on
That's unbelievable.
I remember he was like in the truck, and then the team was running in front of him.
That's right.
He was, it's
so
like
get him out of here. He's a bum.
DiNardo had to walk so Coach Ho could run.
And then I'm telling you, the noose was the restaurant. Like once he did that, he was like,
well, yeah. What are you doing?
Done with
Got a play place. Like, you're a football coach.
Sure does have a lot of time to sit at the bar at that restaurant, doesn't he?
Imagine Tiger dropping the.
Well, that's another line where the fan says, well, if he wouldn't spend all his time making them commercials, it's like the commercial shoot was like a 1 hour shoot in June that happened once, but you're thinking the commercial's in real time. Like every time the commercial airs, he's in the truck.
How's he have the time in the middle of the game?
It's a live spot.
Jacques, great to see you.
Yeah, Cecil Collins, October 15th.
Hell yes. We're fired up about that, man. Every Wednesday, Jacques, thanks for battling the traffic as well.
No problem.
We will talk to we're going to talk to a doctor here from Ochsner as we are going to that's right. That's right. We're going to talk to Dr. Jeff Hogan coming up here next. Achilles injuries for 39-year-olds. What's the likelihood that they can play back in the NFL? We will talk to him next. Remember, our show is brought to you by Katie's Restaurant. Katie's is located in New Orleans, down on Niverville Street in Mid-City. Been around since '84. Great spot. katiesinmidcity.com, katiesinmidcity.com. Remember, we've been telling you about the new Sunday hours, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Just installed 6 new televisions over there. They have embraced football season. You want pregame, postgame, in-game place to watch the games? Check out Katie's on Iberville Street. katiesinmidcity.com, katiesinmidcity.com. We're back with Dr. Hogan from Ochsner right after this. He's from Primary Care Sports Medicine Doc over at Ochsner. We're going to talk to him about a couple of injuries next here on the Culotta Show, as always, built by R&B.
Malik Neighbors, a wide receiver.
Favorite pregame meal?
Popeyes.
What would winning a national championship mean to you?
It would mean a lot to me because, we seen a lot of the greats come through here, won their national championship, got, remembered for life.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Probably fly. That or telekinesis.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Do it wrong, do it long. Do it right, do it light.
Kyle Lacey, wide receiver, number 2.
Do you have any nicknames?
K2.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
Stay humble.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Fly. I be flying in my dreams.
What's been the highlight of your partnership with us?
The bike giveaway was one of the best things. I was pretty excited about that one. Texas A&M, I just got a point to prove because last year I dropped 2 balls I should have caught. I'm coming for them for real.
That's it. Thank you, man.
My name is Harold Perkins, and I play linebacker.
What's your favorite pre-game meal or snack?
Pasta with a little steak, something that's not too heavy.
Any superstitions or pre-game rituals?
I pray a lot. Just be me and God before the game. Perky worky. I like when they call me the percolator. I like that.
If anyone gets in a wreck, who should they call?
Gordon.
Thanks. Where were you born at, Greg?
Hattiesburg, Mississippi. But I claim 504 food because I was raised there my whole life. Favorite type of food is spaghetti. But you need to try spaghetti with some corn on the side. Funniest person, I'd probably get Kyron Lacey. He be having me joked out every time I talk to him.
Who's the most athletic?
Besides myself, Perk or Malik. Future yourself, just take one day at a time, one step at a time. If you're doing something, just be where your feet are. Make sure you give 100% effort.
What is something on your bucket list?
Win a Super Bowl. That's definitely on my bucket list.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Time traveling.
Who's the fastest on the team?
Like in a short span, I would say quick trigger, I'm taking Perk. One thing most people don't know about me, probably that I moved 12 times growing up, 12 different states.
Who's the most savage on the team?
Mason Smith. Mason Smith, definitely.
And who gets it done?
Gordon.
Thank you, man. That's great.
Emory Jones, right tackle.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Got it from my mom, and she just told me, always keep your head on the swivel.
Favorite subject?
Math, easy. I kind of keep it light. Give me some type of red beans or something like that. Throw a little cornbread on the side.
Light with red beans.
Yeah, just a little bit. I am superstitious. I got some PSDs that's purple and yellow and white. I wear them every game. I feel like they my lucky draws, and you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep doing it.
If you're in the market for a mortgage lender, you need to start with Doug Bickley and his team. Bickley has built a crew with over 50 years of combined lending experience. They've been in business for over 20 years, and they love helping their clients achieve the American dream of home ownership. They're also key with working in real estate agents and helping their clients getting same-day pre-approval. They average about one buyer a day getting them in a home. If you want to get in touch with Doug and his crew, it's easy. Call them 225-214-5154. 225-214-5154. Go see the Bickley team today. They're located on the corner of Coursey Boulevard and Sherwood Forest right here in Baton Rouge. Is it time to wash your house or business? Call the pros at Hydro Wash today. Get them out with their...
What's up?
What's happening?
Chilling with a couple of cool guys. You?
Chilling and watching some tube. Hold on.
Did you do it?
Hold on. Did you do it?
Roof's up.
Hold on.
Roof's up?
Roof's up!
Roof's up!
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
beautiful roof every single time.
True. True.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college, for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
You can't put the cart before the horse. That'd be like, will you marry me?
Do I know you?
Never sign a contract with a roofer before he gets on your roof. Call Go Roof instead. We offer a free, no-obligation inspection. A beautiful roof every single time. Bobby, goes in the front.
Roof, roof, Go Roof.
Belmont Stakes Race Training. I'm sticking to roofing.
Roof, roof, Go Roof.
Kentucky Derby Training. I'm sticking to roofing.
Roof, roof, Go Roof.
I'm here. You got me?
I love our partnership with our friends over at Ochsner. Remember, we tell you about the sports medicine, the Andrews Sports Medicine Institute all the time over there. One of the primary care sports medicine docs is very talented, a part of the team over there. We've met Dr. Jeremy Burnham. We met some team members, Dr. Graham, and now Dr. Hogan, who we say is a primary care sports medicine, was just texting back and forth with Dr. Hogan yesterday and wanted to talk a little bit about some of the injuries that are just kind of been early here in the sports season. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers being 39 years old, dealing with an Achilles injury, but some other injuries that are kind of happening in and around sports. So we welcome in from Ochsner this morning, Dr. Jeff Hogan to the broadcast here. Doc, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you this morning?
Doing good. Thanks for joining us. Obviously,
Yes.
a great team, great partnership, Dr. Burnham and the whole crew over there. So thanks for giving us a little insight this morning. Obviously, 2 nights ago, everybody in the football world is paying attention to New York, 9/11. It's a special day in American history, and the Jets roll out their new quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. Not 4 plays in does he tear his Achilles. He's 39 years old, Doc. What is he facing at 39 in rehabbing that to play at a high level of sport?
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure. Achilles injuries are probably one of the most, in my opinion, probably one of the most difficult ones we see, especially when we talk about return to play, and especially with a high-level athlete, what he's going to need to put his body through to be ready for on the back end. Typically, I mean, there's been a lot of variability. We're looking at 9 to 12 months of pretty intensive rehab to hopefully get back to that level. You mentioned he's 39. Nothing really gets easier as we get older, so I'm sure that may provide some roadblocks to it as well. But it's certainly a long road.
What are and look, I tore my Achilles when I was 33. What are some of the rehab tactics to get back to full strength in I guess not a short amount of time and in the right amount of time?
Yeah, like you, I'm 34 now. I tore my Achilles at 33. So
wow,
right there with you.
Wow.
But initially surgery. You know, you got to get that tendon stabilized, and then you got to give it time to heal. And you're talking a period of up to 6 to 12 weeks where you're not doing a whole lot on it. You do want to start getting weight going through your ankle, start getting a little bit of some stretch in that tendon, but you lose a lot of strength through your calf. You really got to focus once you can get back on it, regaining that range of motion, trying to get the mobility of that joint pretty close to normal or pretty close to symmetric to the unaffected side. And then from there, it's really trying to work on that strength getting through the calf, because you lose a lot of it. It gets really tight, but it's a slow process. That tendon is very it's very vulnerable. So it's not something that we typically recommend trying to push quickly. You got to have a lot of patience with the process.
Another injury that we hear about a lot, it seems like, is turf toe. And turf toe is something that's kind of popped up here lately with a couple of athletes that are close here in the NFL, but moreover, we've seen it year in, year out in sports. Can you explain what turf toe is and kind of how that happens and how you rehab it?
Absolutely. So turf toe is an injury to what we call a ligamentous complex on the underside of the foot, on the underside of that big toe. There's a series of ligaments, some tendons, as well as some free-floating bones under there as well. So with a really extreme kind of a hyperextension injury of that toe, particularly on hard surfaces, a la turf, hence the name, you can actually get, varying levels of injury through that complex, ranging from a more minor sprain, if you will, even to a complete tear, which is the most devastating and the most difficult to come back from, requires the most treatment and often requires surgery to fix.
And this is an injury that it's tough to get right in the season, right? Like it's tough to...
It is. And especially the nature of the sports that most of these athletes are playing, you can't get away from that hyperextension. Anytime you're trying to push and drive off your toe, you're extending that toe, and it can be very painful. So each time you do that, you're basically kind of re-injuring it, if you will. So all of our treatment efforts are trying to limit that motion. We're putting people in boots so they're not moving their toes when they walk. You obviously can't play in a boot, so we try these rigid, carbon fiber inserts in the shoes to try to limit it. But even that's not perfect, and it's very difficult. It's very painful to try to get right in season.
One more for you, Doc, on an injury standpoint. LSU had a big defensive lineman, Mason Smith, tear his ACL last year in the season opener against Florida State. He made his rehab and made his return to get back in time for fall practice. He had an ankle sprain during fall practice. It seemed to set him back a little bit more. It was on the same knee. It was on the same leg that he tore the ACL on. How do those kind of align, and how much sense does it make for him to be really productive like this weekend coming off of an injury like that over a year ago?
If you took the ankle out of it, the fact that we were able to get to about a year of rehab and rehabilitation before we were able to get him back gives him a pretty good prognosis. Once you get to that 9 to 12 mark, the longer you can wait before you really get into that return to play, it seems to only be beneficial. So that's great in terms of the knee health. The ankle does complicate things because you lose some of that ability, that proprioception we call through the ankle and the knee. You don't want to compensate in a weird way. You don't want to put any kind of weird stress through the knee trying to compensate for that ankle injury. So it does throw a wrinkle into things. Depending on the level of severity with the ankle, but we can recover from ankle injuries pretty quickly. So hopefully it doesn't really hold him back as far as the knee goes.
How'd you tear your Achilles, Doc?
Getting back to the glory days, trying to play basketball.
So did I.
Went up for a dunk.
5 minutes into my first game, took a step trying to drive and
pop.
Felt somebody kick the back of my leg, went down.
That's right. Feels like somebody trips you.
You roll back, you roll over, you're like, who kicked me? And they're like, dude, it's basketball. Nobody kicked you.
You're old, Doc. I hate to tell you
sense.
that. That was the first thing that somebody stood over me and said.
It's a harsh reality to face.
Welcome to adulthood. Thank you Thank you for your time. Thank you for the partnership. We love what you guys are doing over at Ochsner. We love to be able to do something like this, to be able to tap into a resource, to somebody who is an expert in his field, and somebody that you can go see. He's located over at the Grove Complex over in Baton Rouge on Bluebonnet. You can find more, as always, at ochsner.org/sportsmedicine. as they have been fantastic. Thank you for the time this morning, Doc.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, Doc, before you go, obviously you talked about a little bit about turf toe with the Saints. Do they have a turf problem? You have a Trevor Penning that's gone out with turf toe in the preseason. Peyton Turner has the turf toe. We don't want to.
No, not about the Saints. We appreciate you,
I'm
Doc.
sorry. I was wondering why you didn't ask.
Sorry, Doc.
I was talking about turf.
He's young. He's young, Doc. He's still a kid. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
I appreciate y'all.
All
Y'all
right.
take care.
Damage control on air.
Yes.
Bye, Doc.
I'm going to fight Lloyd, and we'll be back and
Nobody
close it out.
told me that.
Later.
Hey Tiger fans, when you're traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, make sure to visit Tom and Wright Granning at Go-Mart and On The Go Deli, where you can fill up your tank and your belly. Go-Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you may need on your trip. Located at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left. Also stop by Wardo's Po' Boys at 309 North Broadway on the beautiful Natchez Bluff, where the Po' Boys are so good you'll swear you're in Cajun country.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
If you're in the market for a mortgage lender, you need to start with Doug Bickley and his team. Bickley has built a crew with over 50 years of combined lending experience. They've been in business for over 20 years, and they love helping their clients achieve the American dream of home ownership. They're also key with working in real estate agents and helping their clients getting same-day pre-approval. They average about one buyer a day getting them in a home. If you want to get in touch with Doug and his crew, it's easy. Call them 225-214-5154. 225-214-5154. Go see the Bickley team today. They're located on the corner of Coursey Boulevard and Sherwood Forest right here in Baton Rouge. Is it time to wash your house or business? Call the pros at Hydro Wash today. Get them out with their low-pressure, soft-washing cleaning approach. From commercial buildings, rooftops, and residentials, Hydro Wash is ready to get your place shining. Find them on Facebook or call Curtis at 225-933-7068. Take it from me, Hydro Wash came by and made my house look like new. What was best was the professionalism. They picked up everything, made the clean, and then put everything back to where it belonged. Get in touch with Curtis today. Call him at 225-933-7068.
What's up?
What's happening?
Chilling with a couple of cool guys. You?
Chilling and watching some tube. Hold on. Did you do it? Hold on. Did you do it?
Roof's up.
Hold on.
Roof's up.
Roof's up.
Roof's up.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Beautiful roof every single time.
True. True.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
You can't put the cart before the horse. That'd be like, will you marry me?
Do I know you?
Never sign a contract with a roofer before he gets on your roof. Call Go Roof instead. We offer a free, no obligation inspection. A beautiful roof every single time. Bobby, goes in the front.
Roof, roof, go roof.
Belmont Stakes Race Training.
I'm sticking to roofing.
Roof, roof, go roof.
Kentucky Derby training. I'm sticking to roofing.
Roof, roof, go roof.
Help.
All right, welcome back. Jordy Culotta show. Dust Lloyd off a little bit there.
I don't know if I'll be holding this microphone again.
God's sakes, man. Appreciate everybody for stopping in today. Good interaction. Good show. Thanks.
There's
for
a deep
Jacques.
drive to left by Castellanos.
That's right. Thanks to Jacques for stopping by. Good to hear from the doc as we were able to link up with our guy, Dr. Jeff Hogan, who came through from Ochsner to spread a little knowledge for us, so we appreciate that. And a shout out to my guy last night, kind of unexpectedly, was watching Little J. Little J had a football game last night, and on the sidelines was one of the great photographers in our state. Check out some of these pics, bro. He is Michael Odendahl. And he runs Coach O Game Day Graphics, which is a part of Go Preps. He's the lead photographer over at Go Preps. They've got like all of the LHSAA, like the championship photogs. This kid right here, that's Little Jay playing defensive back, taking this kid down at Parkview. His name is Seven Domang. His name is Seven. He's number 7. And I'm telling you, this cat right here, bro, is a stud. I mean, like an 8th grade. This is like 7th and 8th grade football. And Jay's playing safety last night as a 7th grader. And I mean, every time that kid, 7 Domang, would touch the ball, I mean, I would like curl up. Like, I mean, I was
massive.
Like, coach runs pissed. Like, I mean, like he is mad running. And, but luckily we're all alive. Everybody's healthy. But shout out to my guy, Michael Odendahl from Go Preps. He's the lead photographer over there. Coach O Game Day Graphics. With some pictures last night, and is just phenomenal. He's a great follow on social media if you want to hit him up there at Coach O Game Day Graphics. But some cool photography from last night. Me and Hester, the dads yelling at the referees.
That tale as old as time.
Obnoxious the amount of holding calls they missed last night
at
a Little League game.
I think they're trying to go home.
That's fine. Clock running, coach.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's the only way to stop it.
I mean, like,
you would have seen him play or not.
Right. But either way, Cubs get out of there with a win.
Holding.
My man, 7 Domain. Easy holding call. Missed it twice on a long drive. But 7 Domain over at Parkview, a hell of a player. And check out Coach O Game Day Graphics on Twitter and on Instagram, all over social media. Thanks for them for stopping out.
7 Domang. No pressure, kid.
Great name. No, right.
Yeah,
right?
There was an LSU fan that got interviewed for the, I think it was the Alabama-Texas game, and he was like talking mad about Saban. And one of the guys
afterwards?
Yeah. One of the guys, like, he was talking shit for LSU. One of the guys was like, Saban should have never left. This would happen to LSU, whatever. He's like, now he's old. And one of the guys off camera goes, bro, your middle name's Saban. And they're like, is that true? He's like, yeah, my parents did that. Like, they didn't think he was going to leave.
That's Alabama for you.
No, he's an LSU fan. So it was early 2000s when he was conceived.
Oh, no.
So he's stuck with it.
It was that night. LSU beat Mississippi State in overtime. All right, shout out to our friends over at Tiger Air. Remember, Tiger Air, you can find them online. If you want to pick up your Zephyr model, you can do that. They'll be out in front of Mike the Tiger's cage at every LSU home game. So not this weekend, but when Tigers get back for Arkansas. Check us out tomorrow. We're with you at 7 a.m. Hit that like button, share button, comment button from our Click Here Digital Campus. We are signing off. We're back with you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.
We got all your favorite guests, we got them in line.
Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification, we about to go live. We got all your favorite guests, we got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time. It's the hottest show around, we ain't gotta flex. Call up G, we get it done, we earning our respect. Tell recruits to let us in, where they going next? Throw up the L's, now we lit, band playing neck. From the boot to the east to the west coast. No matter where we at, we live, mic'd up for show. Open up the phone lines, come and join the show. Make sure you tell your friends about Jordy Culotta Show. Yeah, Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification, we about to go live. We got all your favorite guests, we got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time. Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification, we about to go live. We got all your favorite guests, we got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time, yeah.